Hey everybody, welcome to Money's No Object. I'm your host, Dylan Howell. This is episode number 246 of our YouTube channel and podcast, and I cannot be more excited to continue sharing with you guys personal finance topics that I think can be useful for you in your long-term financial journey. Today we are going to be talking about catching up in your retirement life and why it is never too late to do something financially, right? It's never too late to get some start financially, because a lot of people just give up when they think they've hit some point of no return, or that they've been doing something for so long that they're afraid to do something else, right? And I just want to spread some hope for you that even if you have built some bad financial habits, even if you have done some things that I don't talk about doing on this show and that I don't suggest that you do on this show, it does not mean that you can't turn it around, and it does not mean that you can't create some good financial habits that you can begin to live with from here on out, right? And that you can't build a good life for yourself in your working life and then into retirement. So we're going to be talking about all of that and a whole lot more in today's episode. But before we get started though, if you could go down below, hit the big red subscribe button, like this video, leave me any feedback in the comments down below, and I'll be sure to respond to anything you leave down there. If you're listening on Apple or Spotify podcasts, be sure to subscribe and leave me a review on either one of those platforms. Follow me on social media at MNO with Dylan, and that's really good supplemental materials to all the things I'm putting out in these long form episodes on YouTube and the podcast every single day. And then if you need somebody to help you to build a financial plan and keep you accountable to that plan over the long term, then I can do that. Just DM me on any of the major social media sites and tell me that you are interested in financial coaching, and you and I can begin working together, creating a financial plan that is specific to you and your family's needs, keeping you accountable to that plan over the long term, and building long-term financial freedom, which is what I hope for every single person who watches or listens to this show on a day-to-day basis. All right, well, millennials, you're not getting any younger. And you may hate to hear that, but it is absolutely true. And that's kind of where I want to start in today's episode, because millennials have been through a lot financially. And that's not to say that other generations have not, but millennials are right there in the thick of things. Millennials are right there because the date range for which millennials were born, and this differs based on different places that you look. But we'll just go with 1981 to 1996. Okay, that is a millennial. Okay, so if you were born between 81 and 96, you are a millennial. Now that is quite the large range, right? Because if you were born in 1981, you're turning 40 this year. Okay, so you know that things that are going on in your financial life may look very different from somebody who was born in 1996. Right? That person who was born in 96 is turning 25 this year. And 25-year-olds and 40-year-olds have a lot of things that are just different in their lives, and therefore their financial lives are going to look very different too. But something that a 25-year-old millennial and a 40-year-old millennial are going to have in common is that they could have been making bad financial mistakes up to this point, right? They could have been making some financial mistakes that are holding them back from becoming the best version of themselves financially. And these individuals could be making good decisions financially. They could be pushing towards some level of financial freedom for themselves, right? But something that the 40-year-old and the 25-year-old do not have in common is that the 25-year-old has a lot more time to clean up those mistakes than does the 40-year-old. If the 25-year-old has messed up their credit really bad, then the 25-year-old has a lot more time to get their credit fixed up before they need a home loan or whatever than does a 40-year-old. The 40-year-old, they don't have as much time to get these things right, to get these things together. If a 25-year-old hasn't started saving for retirement, nobody is chastising a 25-year-old for not saving for retirement yet. But the 40-year-old, everybody's like, you're not saving for retirement? What's up with that, right? Why aren't you, doing the best thing for your financial life, right? So the 40-year-old does not have the gift of time, okay? But the 25-year-old does. And that's a very, very important thing. But what I want to articulate to you guys today is that no matter the amount of time that you have, right? Whether it's, from 40 on or from 25 on, or let's say you're not a millennial, let's say maybe you're Gen Z, right? You have a lot more time, or let's say that you're Gen X, you have less time than the millennial does. No matter where you're at, you can create some financial life for yourself that is worth living, right? You can create some financial life for yourself that is going to be beneficial to you over the long term, right? And I don't want you guys to just think that based on where you're at, that you're stuck. Or I don't want you to think that based on where you're at, that you have so much time that you don't have to do the right things right now and you can make mistakes. I think that's one of the biggest lies that is told out there, is that like, oh, you're in your 20s, go out and, do some things, make some mistakes, do some of the wrong things to figure out what works for you. No, if you can get on a good financial plan in your 20s, or you can just do good things in your 20s in general, right? Then you can build a really good financial foundation for yourself, or just a foundation for life for yourself moving forward. Right? You can do a lot of good things that will allow you to become a more successful person, both financially and otherwise, later on in your life. Now, I'm not saying don't have fun in your 20s. I'm not saying don't do things that you want to do. I'm not suggesting that. What I'm suggesting is that you do the things that matter correctly, right? That you start the good habits that you should be starting, right? That you do, especially financially, right? You do budget. Right? You do get out and stay out of debt, that you do build up an emergency fund for yourself, that you do begin investing, right? If you do all of those things and you build a good financial foundation for yourself, then you'll be far more likely to get to some point of financial freedom a lot quicker and have a life that's a lot more open to opportunity and opinion than somebody who waits and waits and waits to get started. Because I've told you many times before, financial freedom to me is options, right? Financial freedom is having options with your money. And if you are financially free, if you have those options, that means you can do a lot more things with your money than somebody else, right? You can, quit a job. You can start your own business a lot earlier. You can, in an earlier in life example, you can move out of your parents' house. You can get married. You can have children, right? Doing the right things financially is going to set you up for a situation where you can actually do the things that you wanted to do, right? It is well known, right? Well-known statistics that millennials are waiting longer and longer to move out of their parents' houses, to have children. They're waiting a lot longer to buy houses, all these different things. And do you think it's because they don't want to live outside their parents' house? Or do you think it's because they don't want children? Or do you think it's because they don't want to buy their own home? I don't think it's any of those things. I think it is because they are saddled with debt. They have made some bad financial decisions, right? They've lived through some major financial crises, right? And they're just in a situation where, they feel kind of paralyzed and they don't know what to do other than stay at their parents' house and maybe work a job and whatever. And again, this is not all millennials, but this is a very large number, and it's a very significant number, or else I wouldn't be bringing it up, obviously, right? It's a significant number of millennials who are being held back by the fact that they are saddled with debt, that they have made bad financial decisions. But I want every one of them to know, right? If you're one of those millennials that's watching this show, or maybe you're not a millennial, but you've made similar decisions, you're going to be okay if you make the right financial decisions from here on, right? If you build a good financial foundation for yourself from here on. But if you just choose to wallow in whatever bad financial decision you have already made, and you just choose to sit there and not do anything different and just keep doing the thing that is comfortable to you, and you're not making any changes in your life, that's going to be problematic. That's going to be something that can really hold you back. Your past, yes, your past can hold you back financially. I understand, right? But with a lot of things financially, your past is in the past, right? Just like with anything else in life, you can just move on from the things that you've done in the past, okay? But there are some things that hold on to you. There are some things that hold you back, but you should be able to move on from most of those things and begin to do something better for yourself. And that's what I'm pushing you to do. That's what I want you to do. That's what I want you to take from today's episode, is that you can do something. Even if you start late building good financial habits, saving for retirement, whatever, right? You can build something substantial for yourself. Okay. And where this starts in the process, again, of the foundational steps of personal finance. This is not starting with investing. It's not starting with Bitcoin. It's not starting with buying Tesla. It's not starting with any of those things. It's starting with the mundane. It's starting with the things that are not going to be a lot of fun, okay, but they're going to make all the difference in your financial life. It's starting with making a unique monthly budget, right? It's starting with knowing where your income comes from, knowing where all of your money is going to go every single month, tracking those expenses to make sure that you're correct, and then seeing what you can do with any excess money that you have left over. And yeah, I know this is something that you've heard a million times. And I know this is something that seems antiquated. It seems like there's no reason to do a written monthly budget or to get out the Excel spreadsheet or to open up a budgeting app. There seems no reason to do this. But you'll find if you actually know where your money is going, if you actually can keep track of your expenses, if you actually know what kind of income you're bringing in and then what your residual or leftover income is, then you will be far better off moving forward. You'll be far better off in being able to invest for your future. You'll be far better off in making decisions on taking out new debt because you'll know how much extra money you have to do X, Y, or Z, and you may not want to get rid of, because I'll tell you this, right? In my own life, I'm debt free, right? Me and my wife, we don't have any debt. And when you don't have debt, you cannot imagine having debt. Right? I hear people with car payments, and I can't imagine taking out a car payment. I can't imagine taking out a loan on a car or having a credit card that's accruing interest, right? Or having a student loan still that's accruing interest and that I'm making payments on, right? The amount of cash flow that would eat up on a monthly basis is absolutely crazy. So the sooner that you can get to a place where you know the amount of cash flow that you have monthly and where all of your bills are being paid and how much you're spending on everything, then you can start allocating your money in a proper way, no matter how late you start, no matter when you begin in your financial life. If you're not beginning with knowing where your income comes from and where your money is going with your expenses, then you can run into a lot of financial issues if that's not the foundational step that you take. That's why it's the first part of my financial action plan, regardless of where you are, age or experience level in your personal financial life. And then what's the big thing that's holding millennials back, that's holding a lot of people back, not just millennials, right? The Gen X people, right? It's holding them back too. But it's really holding millennials back, and it's starting to hold Gen Z back too. That is debt, right? Debt has always been and will always be a plague on somebody's personal finances because it is a strain on your cash flow. You've heard me say it if you've watched this show, and you'll hear me say it a million times more. Debt is a strain on your cash flow. And anytime you are straining your cash flow, meaning you have less of it, like I was saying earlier, if you have car payments or if you have credit card bills, accruing interest, or student loan payments or whatever, that's less and less residual income. That's less and less cash flow you are going to be able to keep at the end of every month. Okay? And so if you are consistently saddled with this debt and you have all this debt sitting aside, and in a lot of cases it's something like student loans, right? You have this student loan debt or this car debt, and it's really keeping you from doing the things that you want to do in your life, right? But the good news is that no matter where you are in your financial life, it is never too late to attack that debt, right? You can attack your debt. You can make the right concessions in your financial life to begin to chip away at something that may seem insurmountable in your own life, right? I know that you can take out as much in student loans as you want to take out, and there's not going to be any requirement on the other end that you go and get a job that's going to be able to service those student loans in a fundamentally obvious way, right? You're not going to be able to make that student loan payment, or at least a lot of individuals are crippled by the student loan payments that they have because they took out a lot of loans, and then the income that they're making on the other side is not commensurate with the loans that they took out. Now, that's why I tell you, don't take out student loans in the first place, right? It's not a good value proposition for you ever, but especially not at this point in higher education, okay? But if you already have student loans and you feel like student loans are keeping you from doing the things that you want to do financially, then what should you do, right? What's your obvious choice here, right? You can either sit around and whine about it and sit around and wait on the federal government to pay your bill, which doesn't look like it's happening anytime soon. You can stay at your parents' house. You can, put off life, right? Or you can attack this thing. And that's what I suggest you do. And that's what I suggest you do in the financial action plan, is that you attack your debt. You get rid of your debt. Okay. And by getting rid of your debt, no matter where you are in your financial life, if you get rid of the debt that you have, right, then what you're going to be able to do is you're going to be able to start stacking up cash flow, right? You're going to be able to use cash flow that you do have to do things like save for retirement, like invest for your future, right? Like buy a house, right? Like save for emergencies. You're going to be able to make a lot of headway in your financial life simply by getting out of the debt that you have. And if you're saying, well, hey, the debt that I have is just too much, right? It's too big. Well, let me tell you, sometimes you just have to work harder, right? You're not saying that you can just work your way out of a hole in every instance, but in most instances, right? If you have an income issue, you have a true income issue, right? You can get multiple jobs for a short period of time, or you can, find a different job that pays more for some period of time in order to chip away at these things that you feel like are saddling you and that are holding you back. You have to make some tough financial decisions to get to the other side. You have to make a sacrifice. I tell you guys this all the time, right? You either make a sacrifice today in order to reap the rewards tomorrow, right? Or you try to reap the rewards today and then you have to sacrifice tomorrow. Now, if you have student loans that are holding you back, right? You took the reward first. The reward was give me that money. Okay, so you took the reward and you went to college or you did whatever with that money, because there's really no tabs on what people do with that money, which is problematic as well. But you took that money, you took the reward. Well, that means that you're going to have a sacrifice on the other side, and the sacrifice is paying those loans off. Right? So you're going to have to make the sacrifice in order to do so. Now, the world is saying that you can't pay them off, and the world is saying that you're going to have to rely on the government, and the government's the only way it's going to be done. Look, I have heard story after story after story of individuals, right, who had, in many cases, 6 figures in student loan debt that are able to pay it off, and they're not, touting $400,000 a year salaries or $300,000 a year salaries, right? They just chip away at these things and they put every bit of cash flow that they have left at the end of every month on those student loans until they're gone, or on that car until it's gone, right? And this is why it's so important to budget and so important to do those things in order to get your financial life back to zero, because if you are not budgeting, then you don't know how much extra money you have to put on a car, to put on your student loans, to put on even investing, right? Which we're going to get to here in a moment. Okay. But if you don't know how much money you have left at the end of every month, you don't know how much residual income that you have, then you are not going to know if you can actually do this or not, if you can actually pay off your debt or not. But once you get free of debt, regardless of your age, right? If you're a millennial, Gen X, whatever, once you're free of your debt, then you can really start building some things. And also think about, as people push towards retirement, right? They're pushing towards a retirement age of, let's say, late 50s, 60, 65, whatever, right? They're pushing towards this retirement age, and something that they're having to consider is how much income they're going to need in retirement. Okay. Well, the amount of income that you need in retirement is commensurate with the amount of expenses you're going to have in retirement. Well, the amount of expenses that individuals have in retirement is typically very heavily predicated on the amount of debt that they have. Right? If you have a lot of debt going into retirement, your expenses are naturally higher. Therefore, you're going to have to create more income on a monthly basis in order to just keep up with those debt payments, which is a problem, right? I don't want you guys to be in that situation. So if you are debt-free, no matter how late you start, you'll be required to build a smaller nest egg in order to live the financial life that you want to in retirement, because you will have less expenses. Okay? So no matter how late you start, if you pay off your debt, it is going to be beneficial to you. In many cases, it is easier to pay off a debt and have that expense gone from your budget in retirement, right, than it is to build up the income to pay for that debt in retirement, meaning to build up the nest egg that will create the income for you in retirement and do so in a perpetual way. Okay, so we want to be out of debt. That is vital no matter where you are in your financial life. No matter how old you are, you want to be out of debt. Now, something that everybody else maybe not wants to do, but something that everybody else needs to do is to invest for their future. You need to be investing for retirement. You need to be investing for maybe your kids' college. You need to be investing just for your future. You need to have money so that later on you don't have to rely on a job. You don't have to rely on some paycheck in order to live. Now, I've been talking a lot about, your age and the amount of time that you have and what you should be doing regardless of the amount of time that you have, right? And investing is one of those things where time really makes the most sense. It really is clear that when time is on your side, investing gets a lot easier, right? And so I just made some assumptions here, and I just said, hey, let's say you're trying to retire at age 65. Right, you're trying to retire at 65, and let's say you're 25 years old right now, and the reason I say 25, I'm 25 years old, so I know a lot of people that are my age and that can start doing this in a practical way right now, right? We have time on our side, especially if you're looking at a 65-year old retirement, right? We have time on our side. So if we just invested $158.13 per month, right, from now until age 65, which $158, we've spent a whole lot more on a whole lot less, right? And a whole lot less, by that I mean a whole lot less than our future, than our retirement dreams, okay? So if we spend $158.13 per month investing in something like the S&P 500, making 10% annually, right, which is extremely possible, we would have $1 million by the time we were 65 years old. Now, many of you are going to tell me, oh, well, $1 million isn't enough. I don't disagree that $1 million isn't going to be enough. I've talked about this many times. But I'm saying as a baseline, that's what it's going to take you to get to $1 million. Now, if you just waited 10 years, okay, and you said, well, let me just start at age 35. I don't want to start at 25. Let me wait 10 years and, get my life together and then start at 35. Well, then you start at 35. Now, instead of $158.13, it's going to take you $442.38, almost a whole $300 a month more to get to the exact same spot financially by the age 65. Okay. Now, if that's not glaringly obvious enough, if you just waited until you were 45, right, then you would have to put up $1,316.88 a month in order to get to $1 million by age 65. Okay, so you have to put up $870 more, right, by the time you are 45 than you did at age 35 in order to get to the exact same place that you were trying to get to, the $1 million mark by age 65. And then if you wait till 55 to start investing, you have to put up $4,881.74 a month in order to get to $1 million by age 65. So you see that in a very exponential way, right, you're going to have to put up more and more the longer that you wait to invest. Okay. Now, if you are already behind, this doesn't mean don't start. It means absolutely start. Absolutely start investing as much as you can of your residual income. Now, as I just told you a moment ago, it's way more important that we do already have our debts paid off and we already have an emergency fund built before we jump into some high scale investing. Okay, but once we have done that, invest aggressively. And you can get somewhere that is worth getting to. I'm not saying that you can't, because you absolutely can. Let me just give you this example, right? If you are age 40, right, and 40 is the upper bound of that millennial generation, so I want to be clear with you, you have the least time of all of us millennials, right? And so if you are age 40, right, then you have 25 years until you are 65 years old. Let's say that you're trying to get to $1 million, right, at a baseline for retirement. Now, obviously, this is going to be more than the 25 or 35-year-old that we were talking about a moment ago, right? But this is going to take you $753.67 a month. Now, that's a lot of money, right? That's a lot of cash flow that you're going to have to sacrifice in order to get to the same spot that a 25-year-old could start with $158 a month and keep doing that over the long term, okay? So it's going to take a lot of work from you in order to get there. But, right, before you say that's not possible, right, this is why I can't get ahead financially, right, let's just say that you had a $60,000 a year job, right? $60,000 a year job. And let's say that your job gave you a 4% match on a 401k, right? Meaning that every 4% you put in, they put in 4% right on top of it, right? So on a monthly basis, that means that they are putting in $200 for you, okay, which is no slouch. All right. So if you take advantage of that match, which I say that you should in the financial action plan, right, that's going to leave you where you only have to put in $553 a month in order to get to the exact same place of $1 million by age 65. Now, let's say that your income is higher than $60,000 a year. Let's say you make $100,000 a year, right? Then you're in a place now where that's $333.33 a month that your workplace is going to put away for you. So that's going to put it to where you only have to put away $420.34 a month in order to get to $1 million by age 65. So don't tell me that it's not doable. Now, I know that not everybody has those benefits, but a lot of people do. And a lot of people have benefits that are way better than that, and they're just not taking advantage of them. So what is my ultimate suggestion for you? Not just for saving for retirement, not just for, paying off your debt or budgeting or saving for emergencies even, right? What is my ultimate suggestion for you? Maybe if you've fallen behind and it's, you feel like it's hopeless, you feel like there's no way that you can catch up. Look, millennial or not, right? 20, 30, 40-year-old or not, right? I want you to know that no matter where you're at, you can start somewhere. Start where you are. Know where you are. Be honest with yourself about where you are. Be honest. If you've got a ton of debt and you know that's something that you're going to have to take on, be honest with yourself and know that that is real in your life, right? If you don't have a lot of debt or, you do have an emergency fund saved up or you're already budgeting, you're already investing, great. Right? Keep doing it. Have a goal and go after those goals. Do all the right things. Build the financial foundation for yourself and get to long-term financial freedom in a very, very quick, a very, very swift way. By all means, do it. Right? But if you have fallen behind, and especially if you've fallen behind into your 40s or maybe even into your 50s, right? Know that you have work to do. Know that you didn't sacrifice earlier, so you're going to have to sacrifice now. You're going to have to make the decisions in your financial life at this point that are going to be very, very difficult. And it's going to be maybe even a bit painful, right? But once you make these decisions, once you do the right things and you do it for a sustainable period of time, then you're going to start to see a lot of headway being made. You're going to start to see a lot of progress to where you can say proudly that you built something for yourself financially. And that's what I want for every one of you, not to be proud and not to say that you just built all this wealth, but I want you to get to some point of financial freedom where you are actually okay with where you're at, right? That you are content. Right? Now, that's not to say that we shouldn't be content in all places financially, right? Whether it's the good or the bad, right? But I want you to be in a place where you actually can feel that your hard work has paid off, that you've done the right things and you are reaping the benefits of doing the right things. Look, not everybody's going to build $1 million nest egg for retirement. Okay, not everybody is going to, have some luxuries that others have. Some are going to have to work harder. Some are going to have to do different things, and they're going to have to do it in a different way. Some people don't make the incomes that others do. Some people, aren't going to have student loans. Some people are, right? Some people's parents paid for their college. Some people's, had to, deal with it themselves, and they chose student loans, right? I understand that all too well. But what you have to understand is no matter where you're at, don't be the victim, right? Don't say that, you need somebody to bail you out or that you need, somebody to rely on, right? You can do it. You can, no matter where you're at in your financial life, you can get to some semblance of financial freedom. And whether for you that just simply means getting out of debt and having some money in the bank, if that's what that means for you, then by all means, be financially free in that way, right? If you know that you don't have any time to, save or invest for the retirement that you always wanted, but you know that you can start putting together a financial life to where you have residual income and you're doing a job that you enjoy, and that's just your life, then by all means, live that life, okay? Financial freedom means different things for everyone, okay? But if you're somebody who's young and you have a lot of aspirations for the future, you want to create some life for yourself in the future that is very specific, you have specific goals, you have things that you want to do, and you know that those goals are going to require you to start investing early and be out of debt early and have a lot of cash flow to stack up and grow towards the future, then you know that, and you're going to have to start early and you're going to have to do the right things now, right? Regardless of where you are financially, I want to just leave you with this. Regardless of where you are age-wise, right? Whether you're 25, 35, 45, 55, 65, 75, you can do something today to make your financial life better. So start with that. Do something that you know today can make your financial life better. and take those small steps and start doing the foundational things. And once you've done the foundational things, once you've started building in that way, then you can get bigger and bigger and bigger in your financial moves. And then ultimately you can get to a point where you're really making some legitimate headway and where you are able to build a financial life for yourself that is quite substantial. Yes, time is a big factor. Yes, time can do a lot for you. I'm glad that I have some time on my side, right? But even if you have less time, you can still do something great. And that's what I want to give you the hope and the encouragement towards today. No matter how much time you have, do the right things and you can reap the rewards of living a good financial plan. So thanks for watching this video. If you could go down below, hit the big red subscribe button, like this video, leave me any feedback in the comments down below, and I'll be sure to respond to anything you leave down there. If you're listening on Apple or Spotify podcasts, be sure to subscribe and leave me a review on either one of those platforms. Follow me on social media at MNO with Dylan, and that's really good supplemental materials to all the things that I'm putting out in these long form episodes on YouTube and the podcast every single day. And then if you need somebody to help you to build a financial plan and keep you accountable to that plan over the long term, then I can do that. Just DM me on any of the major social media sites and tell me that you are interested in financial coaching, and you and I can begin working together, building a financial plan that's specific to you and your family's needs, and then pushing towards ultimately long-term financial freedom together, which is what I hope for every single person who is watching or listening to the show on a day-to-day basis. So tune in tomorrow as I continue talking about personal finance topics that I think could be useful for you in your long-term financial journey. So thanks for tuning into this episode of Money's No Object. I'm your host, Dylan Howell. God bless.